Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
This is Big Geek Umar. How y'all doing today?
It's Friday. Almost the Friday before we have like holidays. So I'm looking
I thought you were gonna say Spider-Man No Way Home, yo. That's my Christmas right there, bro.
But that's part of the Christmas. That's part of it. Eggnog and Spider-Man. That's what I'm saying right there. And
I kind of hate Umar right now because he gets to see it before all of us. And then
why you have to call me out like that?
Because, bro, it's like you do this every year, man. It's like just once. Like, can we share in the festivities with you, like without you like sitting
here
already
on
knowing
Thursday?
What's going on? Nah, bro.
Are you guys free on Thursday?
You were trying to look for tickets and that didn't happen.
Well, yeah, yes. Okay. Just a little bit of background. The tickets were insane to get. I don't think I had this much trouble with Endgame. Like, it broke the Cineplex. Because to be fair, I woke up like super early for Endgame, but like Cineplex was not working. I literally kept pressing the same button or trying to get into a different a theater, and it would freeze and then just shut down. So like Cineplex was not prepared for the volume of people wanting to go see this movie. So the fact that we're seeing it on Monday is not entirely my fault. Well, Oshawa, I'm seeing it in Oshawa on Thursday. That's how desperate it was for us. But no, I'm taking you guys to a proper place.
You know what I hear, Umar? Can you all read that?
No.
Focus. It says excuses. That's what it says. That's all I hear right now. It's just excuses. No, I wouldn't be available. Well, actually, no, I could have made Thursday. It's Friday I couldn't have made. Because I'll be out of town. But anyways.
Are there any Thursdays?
Actually, that Thursday would have been because I'm on holiday starting on the 14th.
You only found that out recently, though.
This is very true. But I would have made the sacrifice. I technically was willing to make the sacrifice for Monday, which is when we're going to be watching it. So,
okay, all right. So for you guys, aside from the Matrix, because I'm trying to organize that right now, and I'm still waiting on some people to let me know if they can come.
Oh wait, Darcy's in that too. So okay.
Sorry, wait. Hold up. Are we just gonna use the intro of our podcast to figure out our movie times? Umar, we ain't going down that road right now, bro. Okay. You on the wrong track.
All right, I'll pass it back to Teese, and we will connect offline then.
You see how I handled that? How I handled that, audience? See how that was from right there.
Back it up, baby.
Exactly. All right. So what's on the agenda, Umar?
All right. So we finally have all three of us watched The Eternals.
You were holding us back for so long, Umar.
I'm not going to say who was holding us back the entire time.
Because it was you. It was you.
All I know is for once it wasn't me, so I'm glad.
Umar's face is like, clearly I didn't watch it for a month. So
yes, and it killed me. But hopefully people watching will still care what we think about the Eternals, because there are several other movies out and have come out and are about to be released that probably take more precedent. But nonetheless, the Geeky Bros have watched The Eternals. So, we are going to review this. Now, just a little bit of backstory. The Eternals is the first MCU film that has actually gotten a rotten score or a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is also the one that has the lowest rating on Metacritic, and basically it is, technically speaking, said to be the worst reviewed of the MCU. Now, we are going to talk about that along a lot of other things, but we'll get to that in a moment. So I think I'm going to preface this by saying, Darcy, Tactix, aside from you telling me what you thought about the movie, I would also want you to tell me and everybody else what you would rate the Eternals out of 10. So Darcy, since it's fresh in your mind, I'm going to go to Tactix first.
Wow. Nice move there. I see how it is.
Yeah.
Cold shoulder and everything.
Yeah.
I got it.
So, T, what did you?
Oh,
think
you're
of the
serious?
Eternals?
Okay. Shit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm straight up serious. So, Tactix.
Okay.
What did you think
I
of
saw
the
this
film?
movie like 3 years ago, man. I don't remember this shit.
Can you imagine we have a review 3 years later? Shit.
Oh man. Okay, so what did I like about it? And then
No.
what
What
I
did you
rate it?
think of the film overall, and what would you give it out of 10?
Okay, so I remember when we first discussed this, right around the time that it was just coming out. I remember you had predicted that both Darcy and myself were gonna go into the movie, and in the first act, it was gonna be like, okay, I don't know how they're gonna feel about this movie. And then midway through, you were like, yeah, I think they might actually like this movie. And then by the end of it, you were like, okay, I honestly don't know what they're gonna think about it. And that's exactly how I felt going into the movie. I was like, okay, I'm already writing this movie off, and we were only like 10 minutes in, and I was like, yeah, this shit is not for me. And what kind of deterred me from it was like the villains, like the little creatures and stuff like that.
The deviants?
I'm kind of over the whole CGI villain-esque type of thing. Like, it just didn't really appeal to me, and I was just like, okay, going in, I'm like, I'm probably not gonna be all that interested in it, because I didn't. And I think Darcy had mentioned this, and I agree with him. The last time we spoke about this, going into it, like when we just saw the trailer, I had no idea. It wasn't clear who the villain was. You just saw the deviants, and that was it. And it was kind of like, well, is that all we're getting? Like, I don't want a 2-hour movie of these heroes just fighting at like creatures. Monsters. You know what I mean? Yeah, like monsters, right? So I went in with super low expectations, and going into the movie in the beginning of the first act, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, it's not really my bag. And then it kind of started to grow on me, and I started getting a little bit more invested. And then there were moments when it dipped, and I was like, okay. And then as it started to progress, I started getting really into the characters and the whole lore and everything. And then by the end of it, I was like, okay, you know what? I enjoyed myself. I have no idea what's going on, and I'm even more confused with the end credit scenes. But overall, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, and I guess I don't know if it helped. It might have helped the fact that like it got such bad press as I was going into it. Like, everyone was like shitting on this movie, and I was surprised because I was like, interesting. This is like the first Marvel movie in a while that is getting crapped on, and it's got like such a like strong cast, right? So going in, I'm like, okay, I'm probably not gonna like this based off of the reviews, and I ended up like at the end of the movie, I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. Like, this movie was all right. It wasn't bad at all. And then my girl also liked it as well, and she's even more lost than I am, because she's not really into the whole Marvel thing at all, or superheroes in general. So she was just going in for a good time, and sure enough, she did. She had a good time. So in terms of what I would rate it, because it's not super fresh in my mind right now, I think I'd give it, from what I remember, I'd give it like a 7, maybe a 7.5. I really enjoyed the action scene, and I remember I was scrolling on TikTok, and some guy was talking about that the fight scene between the speedster girl and Icarus, and how he's like, yo, that's how Flash and Superman, a Flash and Superman fight should have been. And I was like, yo, I kind of agree. That fight scene was actually pretty dope, man. I really like that. Like, the way it was shot and everything, that like the way it was done, I really enjoyed their utilization of each other's powers, especially with with the speedster girl, which is really cool.
Akari.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not gonna remember that name, but characters were cool. And yeah, I would be interested in seeing where they take the Eternals if they do decide to make another movie. But yeah, my ratings, I'd give it a 7.5. 7.5.
Okay. All
And
right.
what was the other? Was there another question?
No,
or...
that was it. That was it. Don't worry. I have other topics about Eternals that I'm going to bring back to you, but I'll first I'll get your reviews. Okay, so Darcy, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yes, for a very long time.
Yes, for a very long time.
I'm gonna give Tactix a moment to drink here. I don't want him to spit up his
My
water.
bad, bro.
So my rating on Marvel's Power Rangers is 7 out of 10. I can't lie. There is a Power Rangers thing in this team that I don't know why, but I kept watching because the villains mixed with their outfits for some reason. I've been dying to say this. Is like I watched the whole film and I was like, why do these guys remind me of Power Rangers for some reason? I don't know. But anyways, I enjoyed the film. I agree with Tactix. And it was my fear going in that like these deviants weren't really going to be of much value. They gave me a little bit more than I thought they would, but like by an edge. And it overall they were weak. The Celestials were cool. I want to say they weren't. It wasn't strong. So they were like, I mean, they're physically strong. They're freaking huge. But what I mean is like the voices acting was cool with that. Like I like the way it sounded. I like the way it looked. How giant and omnipotent they are.
Sorry, can I interject for 1 second? The voice of the Eternal. Just out of curiosity, did both of you ever watch what you call it, Beast Wars growing up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So David Kaye, who voiced Megatron, voiced Arishem, the Celestial.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Dope. I guess I'll pick it up from there. So, so yeah, like the Celestial was cool, but it's just this omnipotent thing, and like I don't really feel anything other than, well, that thing could sneeze and there goes Earth. Like that's like the one thing. I love how like the baby Celestial is like bigger than a planet and comes out of the planet. Like it's like it has to be like cocooned, but it's like a smidgen of what the other one like grows into. Clearly, because it looked like he was like a palm level. But overall, like it was good. I enjoyed a lot of the story. While at the same time, there were moments that was like a little bit weaker. I don't know. Like I enjoyed myself, and yet I'm like, I'm definitely not gonna watch it again. Like that's like the feeling I have. I am interested to see how these characters play out in the MCU. I don't think that there'll be another film with them. At best, if there's a film that centers around them in some way, I think it would be a collaboration with other characters. I think it's their impact to the universe that's gonna be more important. I definitely think that I could see Captain Marvel and them having some kind of crossover, like something they're doing drives Captain Marvel to their location, and then that becomes a bigger thing. Like I could definitely see Captain Marvel like a Captain Marvel 2 and the Eternals are a part of that storyline, because the whole like her coming back and be like, yeah, well, I'm dealing with the rest of space. We ain't see the rest of space that she's dealing with yet, right? And as well as like we've seen some of the Guardians in the Galaxy, but we haven't really seen the galaxy part. We've just seen the Guardians in the galaxy, right? And so I feel like we definitely need to open that up, and that's what is a big part of there. The fact that, spoiler alert, if you haven't had a chance for a month to watch this, it is that you know, like they end up basically being androids. That was, you know, very interesting. I enjoyed it. There was some really good acting. There was some really good dynamic between people, but I don't know. Like it wasn't like the worst Marvel film, but there was something that was missing, and I feel like I honestly feel like it comes down to what I said. It's like there wasn't a strong villain. The villains were either a bit internal and a bit external, but it wasn't clear like what the thing was. Like by the end, Icarus like changes his mind, and I'm like, I feel it, like I understand it, but I didn't feel it like emotionally. Like there's nothing about the villains that made me like go like, damn, damn, like it just is like cool. It all makes sense. It all works, but it's it's not heavy enough. There's nothing. I don't know. Like the villain part, it's missing for me. So
And that like is a cornerstone for you.
Like it doesn't need to be an external villain. It could be the internal one, but it was too much of like it was both of them. Their villains were both finding out what they are and their real mission was that they're being lied to, finding out that like the mother figure wasn't being truthful, and having to deal with that situation, and what the Celestials' real purpose is. But it wasn't like it was a little bit of all, but not one of them gave me the emotional depth to feel like something impactful from that. I feel like the sum of all parts didn't add up to something that hit me like a good villain does, or like a good story about an internal struggle does. It it wasn't strong enough for me in that respect. It was good enough. I enjoyed myself. I don't regret watching the film. But yeah, I'm more intrigued about what the Eternals movies means to the MCU than I am the Eternals movie on its own.
Okay. Interesting. So I'm going to touch on a couple things both of you have said, but I first wanted to give my review. So I saw the movie twice. Once in regular AVX D-Box, and then the second time in IMAX. The first time I went in kind of like, okay, I'm really disheartened by these reviews, and I'm going to analyze this movie as it goes to find out what was it about this film that people didn't like. Well, and also I wanted to see, watching it, will Tactix or Darcy like or dislike this film? So in the beginning, I'm like, yep. I knew for a fact he would hate the first part of the film. I was like,
and you were right.
This is not for him. I was like, Darcy, I thought that you'd be okay. And
that's
then
fair. That was.
And then then we got to the middle. I'm like, and so I was watching very critically for the first third of the film, so much so that I wasn't actually watching the film. I was just constantly analyzing it, like every step of the way. So I wasn't really enjoying the film. I just being a critic to see what the critics didn't like. And I was disagreeing with the critics. I was agreeing with the critics because I had read a bunch of stuff. So I was like very focused on that. By the middle portion, I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying the film, but I'm seeing what people are saying. But at the same time, it's not the worst Marvel film. And then that's also when I started realizing that Tactix would actually like come around this point. Anyway, so I finished the film and I was like, you know what? I will have to disagree with the critics. Like, this is, yes, it's not like the best Marvel film, but by no means was it the worst. In fact, like I will come to this question to you guys back later. What Marvel films do you think were worse, like clearly worse? And like, just give yourself a couple of minutes to think about it while I finish my review.
Thor 2.
And then, sorry?
Thor 2.
Yeah, it's Thor 2.
Name a couple of them. Anyway, so for the second time I went to go watch it, I decided, oh, we lost Darcy. Apparently he
Thor
didn't
2.
really like.
He didn't like Thor 2 either.
So the second time I went to go watch it, it was more, I was watching it as a film. I wasn't being critical. So I actually found myself enjoying it more the second time around. Also because I had seen it the first time around, and there were some things that I felt were kind of something that I found to be a little off. But then I didn't notice later on in the film. So when I rewatched it, I actually saw that a lot of things were actually connecting to the end of the film from earlier on that it just was out of context for us, which I found to be a rather interesting thing, which made me enjoy it more. So the first time around, I would say I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. And the second time around, I ended off on an 8 out of 10. I really loved the characters. I really liked the acting. I found I found the changes they made were a little dumbed down, but to be fair, Jack Kirby's original work with the Eternals was like far too dense to be put into a film. Like that's like a mini series that very few like Tactix. There's no chance in hell you're going to sit through that mini series. You would have been like, nah, man, nah. Nah. So they did kind of make changes that I foresaw because it made sense to kind of shorten the span of the Celestials and the Eternals and also what they're doing. So they went down the more Earth X storyline, which does have direct correlations to the Watchers, which does relate to having the ending kind of go the way they did with what you call it I forgot what the Eternals, the Celestials' name that was in the planet, but like when it was coming out, I think it was like Tiamat or something like that. That is something that was in Earth X, the graphic novel, which was a different, like it was kind of like very different from Jack Kirby's work, but it was like modernizing it. So I kind of figured that they were going to do that. So I enjoyed things. I liked the fact that, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Eternals, here we go. I like the fact that it turned out that Richard Madden's Icarus turned out to be the villain. And I actually found the dynamic that it caused, the splitting of the Eternals, to be very well done. I loved the ending fight sequence, and it was, and like I'll have to say that. So going back to the reviews, when I watched it the second time around, and I realized how much I enjoyed it, I also realized there's probably a lot of unconscious bias coming from the reviewers, because like I had mentioned it to one of my friends that Icarus is a Superman type character who is literally brought to his knees and shackled to the ground and unable to do anything by a black man using intelligence and technology to overpower him. And also the two main white characters in the film, the two white men, were either turned out to be the villain or were morally ambiguous. And also for Jon Snow, he was a side piece. So
he's always a side piece.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, his whole inception is a side piece. So I'm just saying. He's a bastard child in Game of Thrones, by the way, Tactix. Jon Snow, your last name is literally, he's just a bastard child.
Yeah, he's a bastard child, yeah. My man is already yawning from hearing about the Game of Thrones. Like, we But, like, and then you also have, like, Gemma Chan, Salma Hayek, and Angelina Jolie being, like, kind of like the main stars of and the most nuanced of the characters. So, yeah, this is not going to be something that a lot of normal reviewers are going to enjoy because they're not going to see themselves in it. And also, the complaints people are having about certain character development of the males, surprisingly, they don't like the fact that male characters were underdeveloped and not the main focus. Kind of like women have been treated for literally every other Marvel film or any other superhero film. So I found that there was a lot, like basically Eternals was both unconscious bias that was borderline on racism and sexism, along with the fact that I think a lot of reviewers are sick and tired of the Marvel formula, and Eternals was their punching bag. And I bring it back to something you had said in previous episodes, Tactix, where you said if Endgame was the last one you saw, you would be good. I think the reviewers are tired, and seeing a 2.5-hour film that is very different, like this film was the most experimental, artistic, most un-Marvel formula MCU film. And I think that just opened up a gateway for a lot of hate. But if you look at the film objectively, it's actually an enjoyable film. It's not like I agree with you, Darcy. It's not the best film, but like by no way is it the worst film. And like frankly, I would give it above average. Personally, I would give it above average in terms of MCU films. So now that I've given you guys a couple of minutes to think about it, aside from Thor 2 for Tactix, what other Marvel films would you say are actually worse? Like if you can, like Tactics, if you can come up with 2 more, Darcy, if you can come up with like 2 or 3, I've got a couple as well.
Totally random. Before we get into that, I'm gonna make a weird comparison with this. This movie is better than this show, but there's something about these characters that also makes me feel like Inhumans. Like, I mean, on the surface, I don't mean like their stories and stuff like that. It's just this
No,
just
that's
like
intentional.
Yeah, like they're just like these external godlike beings, and they don't have that same tangibility that like Captain America has, right? You know, like Captain Marvel. Why am I using only Captains? But like it doesn't have that tangibility that we get with some of our other characters. So yeah, it's better. Like by all means, because I'm watching Humans, and just watching any clip from that show can tell you how bad that show is. But
do you want to know why they seem so similar?
Because they are the same.
Well, Jack Kirby also created them. Like basically, Eternals and Inhumans are kind of bred from the same cloth.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So, Darcy, do you want to go first in terms of the MCU films you think are worse?
I mean, like Thor 2 has to be on there. Yeah.
Okay.
If we're including the Incredible Hulk because it's technically in the MCU, then I mean, yeah, that's definitely in there. I'm like literally scanning the list, and I'm trying to think like what other films feel worse for me from over time. I'm debating Captain Marvel might be on the same level for me or slightly worse than this.
I'm gonna say that Iron Man 2 for sure is like bottom, and Incredible Hulk. Those are kind of like low points for me. I liked Thor 2, so I have a hard time. Like it is a worse film, but like I like it. I like it. But no, I'm gonna say Captain Marvel. I would say that Eternals was better than Captain Marvel. Iron Man 2, I think should have gotten the hate that this film got. And
fair.
I'm gonna have to say, like, Age of Ultron was definitely worse than this film.
I don't agree.
No, I don't agree. No, I don't agree.
May I ask why you don't agree? And both of you give your reasons, because this is fascinating. Darcy, you start.
It has a better villain. Because it has a villain.
Tactics?
No, but I was No, I mean also like Age of Ultron brings a lot of great moments.
Agreed.
And it has a bit more spectacle. And ironically, it looks less dull than this movie does. Which is part like I mean like the actual like visual styling of it. But I mean like look at this picture. This picture is so dull.
I actually found the movie to be gorgeous looking.
At times, yes. At times, no. I don't know. I yes, Age of Ultron isn't the strongest, but it has a lot of good moments, and it just has some weaknesses. I honestly feel like it just suffers from being like too much of the same in what it does. Other than that, I end up enjoying a lot of that film. Every time I see a clip, I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, I get that part. Yeah, that's good. It's good right there. And I just feel like it's too. That movie was like everything that led up to at the end was like expected, and then when you get to the very end, you're like, nothing surprised me in what they did with it, and so I end up being like, yeah, okay, cool. But like it was too formulaic, is the way I want to put it. But I think it executed on all those pieces fairly well. I think the villain was really captivating. It just didn't amount to anything valuable at the end. Whereas like
But
he's almost as captivating as what's his name? Fuck, I can't think of Endgame. Infinity War. Thanos, yeah. I kept thinking of the name. He's almost as captivating as Thanos. Like he's like almost right there. He just doesn't do anything in the film like Thanos does.
But doesn't that make the film worse for you? The fact that they had a great villain and did nothing, like essentially nothing with him.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they completely shit the bed. They still executed a good normal film. If you had taken that film, like let's say hypothetically that film somehow came before the first Avengers, hypothetically, right? Like that was possible. That film probably would be legendary. It's just that in the order of things that had happened, I just kind of feel like it was just like we've seen this before, right? I don't
have to disagree on that one, but
yeah,
go on.
You can disagree all you want, Umar. The point being is that I just feel like if taken out of the context of everything that happened up to that point and the formulas that we'd seen, and it stood on its own, I think it would be a stronger film if that was theoretically possible, which it's not.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what that, but like, okay, let's come to you.
Yeah, I agree with Darcy because when it comes to like the first Avengers film that we got, like it was an event, bro. Like it was more than just a movie. It was an actual legit event.
Agreed.
And you felt the weight of that movie because they had been building up to that film for
years.
quite a while, right? Like, like with all the other films that came before it. So when we finally got that, it was so overwhelming in the best possible way that to follow that up with Age of Ultron, they almost had a hard time to do that because it's such a tall order given what they had already shown us in the first Avengers, right? That being said, I still enjoyed it. Was it as good as the first Avengers? No, but again, you have to keep in mind that the Avengers film is such a grand spectacle that it was almost hard to compete with itself, right? I kind of compare it to like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man, when it came out during its time, it was like now we can make fun of it and shit on it for not being able to hold up. But at its time, when it came out, it was a fucking fantastic film. So we thought. And then
I love
but
that.
Was being,
so we thought.
but I mean that's because we hadn't expected it. We didn't know what to expect going in, right? And then when we got what we got, we were like, shit, man, that was overwhelming. There's no way they could top that. And then sure enough, they give us even more, and they do top it with the second one, which ended up being better. Same thing with the Christopher Nolan films and with Batman, right? Batman Begins, again. This is coming off of like the shitty iterations of Batman with the Joel Schumacher, the two Joel Schumacher films that he created. So,
sorry,
we're going in thinking, okay, well, Christopher Nolan, he's a good director, but can he really take this on and like make this great? And sure enough, he does with Batman Begins. He gives us a nice, solid film. Then we're like thinking, okay, that was great. There's no way he can really top that. But then they allude to what's coming next with that Joker card at the end. And then they give us the Dark Knight, and they overshoot, and they give us something even more overwhelming. And we're like, fuck, you know what I mean? But then they give us a third one, and now it starts to feel a little bit more formulaic, similar to Avengers, and then Avengers 2. I feel like Avengers 2 is the equivalent to what the same feeling that we got with Dark Knight Rises, right? With Dark Knight Rises, I still enjoyed it. Is it as good as The Dark Knight? No. But I can still watch that movie and find like moments that I thoroughly enjoy. Like the Batman versus Bane scene, fucking phenomenal. Like the way they shot that and did that, I thought that was great. I was satisfied, right?
Their first fight?
The first fight. The second fight, not so much. But the first fight that we got, like, that was great. I enjoyed that. In terms of Avengers 2, like Darcy said, like it gave us a lot of great moments. I just think that they built up so much with the first Avengers that we were already so overwhelmed, and we were expecting we were expecting them to go bigger, and they didn't they didn't until they got to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. But again, they had time to build up to that. So I felt like there needed to be a little bit of breathing room for them to build up to something more grand, which they did because they gave us another spectacle that was on par, not even on par, it surpassed that of the first Avengers film, right? So that's my take on it. But given my opinion and Darcy's opinion, I still think that it was a solid film. It was an enjoyable film. It's a film that I could if it's on, like I'll sit there and I'll watch it, I'll check it out, and I'll still get enjoyment out of it, right? Same with Dark Knight Rises, same with Spider-Man. Like I could still get some enjoyment out of these movies. Like they're not terrible to the point where like I'd never want to see it. Like Captain Marvel, I don't want to see again. What was the other one? Thor 2. I don't even remember. I saw it once. I don't care to ever see that movie again.
I do love how like Loki was desperately trying to retcon Thor 2. They're like, no, guys, seriously, it's a good film. It's a good film. And I'm just like,
that movie is fucking trash. I'm sorry. I did not enjoy that movie at all.
I don't remember anything from that film.
I don't remember anything, yo.
Umar, just like a quick piece in this, like just like put this into context in a way that may make more tangible. Like everything Tactix says is on point with what I'm saying, and to make it like one more emphasis on that is like, if hypothetically, Age of Ultron somehow was able to happen before Avengers 1, just like in a hypothetical in a multiverse, right?
Yeah.
Then I think that if you, let's say, the first Avengers was rated a 10 out of 10. Right, like hypothetically, because for most people, I would say it's a 10 out of 10. At worst, it's a 9, right? Because like, oh, you're pulling at strings here. You're griping over small things. And Age of Ultron, in our current world, the way things work, is rated at like a 7, right? And like that's the dichotomy. I think that if it came first, it might have been rated like an 8.5. I don't think it would have been better. I think it itself would have been better than itself because we wouldn't have had that expectation. We would be like, oh, it's really, really good. And it would have been like every other action film that tries to do what Avengers is trying to do, every Power Rangers thing we've ever seen, all that kind of stuff. It would have actually, that Age of Ultron would have successfully executed what they all wanted to do at a higher caliber level. And then Avengers would have come out and the name whatever, and it would have been like the perfect like comic book movie. So like that's how I feel.
Like,
all right. So like,
that being said, sorry, Umar. I just want to say this. Like, as much as I'm on the stance of Darcy, I can see it from your point of view, and maybe I don't know if you share the same perspective, but for me, when I can look at it like objectively and compare it to something like Captain America: Civil War, right? That again was a spectacle or an event in itself because of the weight of what was going on. It was a division between the Avengers, and at that point, you're not like people who aren't like familiar with like the comic book or like the storyline. They didn't know what to expect. I was like, wait, what? The Avengers are beefing now? What the fuck is going on, right? Whereas like you have like a threat like Ultron. And for the comic book heads who are familiar with Ultron, Ultron's supposed to be like on the same type of level as like a Thanos, and it just didn't like. I can agree that he didn't feel as threatening. Like it wasn't on that level. He was like a subpar kind of level, or like on a subpar level in terms of like he is almost equivalent to that of what was the guy's the villain in Civil War who orchestrated the divide between Zemo. Yeah, he was almost on that level, but because he like even though Zemo was the villain in Civil War, that wasn't the main focus because the villain ended up being, or not even the antagonist, if you will, ended up being the opposing sides of the Avengers. So it was like one team against the other. That was the main focal point. So it didn't even really matter that it didn't matter that Zemo wasn't a very like imposing villain, right? Whereas when you have someone like Ultron, who's supposed to be the center and supposed to be like a Thanos level type of threat, and he's almost comparable to a Zemo, it almost kind of feels like lackluster in that regard. And so that that's kind of what I felt in regards to the Ultron that we got. But again, like I still enjoyed the movie as a whole, but I do feel like the Ultron that I'm used to, we didn't end up getting in Age of Ultron.
You made a point that I now realize that makes a lot of sense, which is with Thanos and Endgame and Infinity War, you felt like I don't know how this is gonna go, and then we saw, and it was devastating. With Ultron, you never not felt like they weren't gonna find their way through it. And that's where he wasn't menacing.
Okay, so like for the film of Age of Ultron, I do see what you guys are saying, and like there is some element there, but I will say that the first Avenger film, while being a spectacle, and also really great, was also a film that technically and also like in terms of story, in terms of acting, in terms of like story logic, was a really good film. Age of Ultron didn't have that. It was like you could like even if you didn't know the behind the scenes frustrations, the story was a little disjointed. It was also kind of trying to do too much, and also while at the same time trying to one up what was done before. Now that second point kind of speaks to what the both of you were talking about, where it was trying to be the next big one. So if it was the first one, our expectations would be lower. So yes, there is some like it was definitely a formula film, but it was also not a strong story in itself. It was spending most of its time setting up other things at the cost of the story, and which is why it cost Ultron itself, and also why some scenes just kind of happened. Like a big portion of the storyline was the romance between Black Widow and Hulk, which began and ended in the film. That kind of came out of nowhere, and like they were trying to force it to happen. With the frustrations in the group, that like especially between Tony and Cap, and then also with Wanda and Pietro, they were just kind of shoving it down our throats in that film. There was no setup from it previously. The one thing about the first Avengers film is it took the next step and in some ways concluded, in other ways it like carried on the story of what was already set up before. And I felt Age of Ultron had wonderful moments. I agree with you. There are some parts in that film, and there are dialogues in that film that are just stupendous. Like the last scene between Ultron and Vision, I found to be very resonating. Certain scenes between like basically anything James Spader did in that film was just captivating, and it was a loss. And also like when Pietro dies and Wanda is in grief, and then she finds Ultron later and like exacts her revenge, that was also very well done. Like there are very good moments in that film. It's just that collectively it was a disjointed film that was trying to set up and also be better than the first. So if taking your situation, Darcy, if we were to have had Age of Ultron first, yes, we would have definitely liked it, and definitely we would have like given it a higher rating. But then if we would have therefore met the second Avengers film, or I'd say the first Avengers film after that, we would have had a situation where it was like Batman Begins and then The Dark Knight, and we would have seen the faults in Age of Ultron. The faults are there. It's just that like the reason, like I found the film to be lackluster. I remember when we first went to go see it together, I was kind of like, it was fun, but like, I wish it could have been. Like, it's not as good as the first one. And also, and then like subsequently, like every other Avengers film I've like it is my least favorite Avengers film, and it's among the lower end of the MCU films for me because of the fact that like rewatching it's just not a very concise, well told story. It's kind of all over the place, which is why it's not like something that I enjoy. So, but again, like that's me personally.
No, I feel you. I feel you. I had a thought and then I lost it. So
Sorry.
I don't know what I'm gonna say now. I'm
Okay.
trying to remember. But
All right. Well,
I just don't think it's it's deserving of being in the top 3 worst MCU films.
True that. I don't think that either.
okay, you know what? That's fair. You know what? That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you. I'll respect that, and I will agree with that too.
Mhm.
Well, I remember my question. Do you think that movie could be better with a re-edit, not like reshooting, just re-editing to
Yes.
clean things
Yes,
up?
I do.
Because I
I
think
100%
I as you were talking, I was like, I feel like that film could go up 2 points if you just like. Yeah, I agree that like the Hulk, Black Widow storyline. Yeah, since we never used it again, we definitely didn't need it. Like we definitely
They didn't even like close it off in like Infinity War. They just like, hey Matt,
No.
hey Bruce,
Yeah,
this is awkward, and that was it.
yeah. I'm good on the Russo brothers for like identifying it existed, but you know what that relationship did? It brought up more questions than it answered by a long mile. Because you're like, do they have sex? Like, is she okay? That's literally, I was just like, that feels dangerous. She ain't got no superpowers or nothing. Like, yeah, so I mean, the Captain Marvel, I could understand because she can protect herself. but yeah, anyways, I digress.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say that's a decent spot. Like, so, okay, so Eternals. Okay. Let me just last final question. Would you say Eternals is above average MCU film, or is it average?
It's hard because when you compare it to what we've gotten so far, it's hard to stack it up to some of the other greats that we've got. Like Eternals as a 7 versus a MCU movie that we've rated a 7 in the past. Like what would be a 7 for, like what would be a 7 for you for MCU? Like this, like, so for Ant-Man, for example, I think I gave that maybe a 7.5. But I feel like I enjoyed Ant-Man a lot more than I did Eternals.
Oh shit! Seriously?
Internals.
Yeah.
Internals.
I don't know. I would say Ant-Man was like a 7 for me, but like it was like a fun family superhero film.
Yeah. I get,
and also it's got Paul Rudd. I mean, who does
yeah,
not Paul
and
Rudd?
like, there's like so much going for it. So I think maybe it's an unfair comparison just because it depends on my mood. Like if I don't want to think too hard when I'm watching a movie and I just want some mindless fun and some like cool action, I'll turn on Ant-Man. But if I want something a little bit more in depth with a more rich storyline that could potentially lead to something else, then maybe I'll go to Eternals. I keep wanting to say Internals.
Would you say that Eternals what about Eternals versus Iron Man 3? Or Doctor Strange? Or
so Iron Man 3 was a 7 for me for sure. There is a lot of things I did not like about the film, like what they did with the Mandarin. But it was a fun film. It was a fun film. I felt like we could have used a little bit more Iron Man in it.
Fair point.
I had fun with it, so it's hard to say. Doctor Strange, I love Doctor Strange for like different set of reasons.
Right.
Spiritual stuff, right?
That, yeah.
So that's not even fair, right? So
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Thor Ragnarok.
Do you want to do like a quick, like you have to choose, like none of this, like let's do let's do a quick round. Umar, you ask, and then we'll just both answer which film.
Okay. So Eternals versus Thor Ragnarok.
I'm probably going Thor.
Fuck. Okay.
You can use ones you've already mentioned too.
Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Eternals versus Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Galaxy 2.
Yeah, I'm probably going Galaxy 2. Yeah.
Wow, I did not like that movie.
Yo, I had that tear at the end of that movie. Damn.
Okay. Okay. Here's one: Eternals or Captain America First Avenger.
Captain America.
Oh. Oh, this one's a tough one for me.
I love that film.
I liked moments in it. I couldn't I couldn't sit through the whole thing and watch it and like really enjoy it. I don't even really remember a lot of it because I saw it once in its entirety and then bits and pieces here and there, and I just never felt compelled to like want to watch it again. So I think I'd probably lean more towards Eternals on this one.
Okay. Final one that I can think of before we start, like, because at this point I'm going to be starting doing our grades. Eternals or Black Widow?
Oh, Black Widow for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, Black Widow. I really enjoyed
Darcy?
Black Widow.
That's a toss up for me, but I think I'm going to lean on Black Widow because there's some real good moments in there, and I think it's more enjoyable. By the way, some of the ones you asked Umar before, I actually had Eternals down as my answer, and he didn't re-ask them. So
I kind of forgot because like so many.
Yeah.
So what were they?
I forget too. That's why I was hoping you'd ask.
Ant-Man and Wasp was also one of them.
Yeah. I don't want to go Ant-Man because Ant-Man's gonna win. There was
Thor, the original Thor.
Oh no, for me it was the original Thor or this Eternals. Iron Man 3 versus Eternals. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Iron Man 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly because of the Mandarin. Because it was like a big setup, and then it was just like, like it was like the fuck this ending.
Okay, so before we go to our final topic, I'm gonna kind of bring up something that we had talked about previously. You were talking about rewrites.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys, do you think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 would be a better film if there was re-edits or rewrites to the film?
Hell yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, like, could Amazing Spider-Man 2 be a better film?
Yeah, like, could you make it a better film with rewrites or let's just even go re-edits?
Yeah, because I mean, if you say it was rewrites, then yeah, you're basically saying, can you rewrite a whole new film? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
could this be better if you make it a different film? Yeah. Yeah, could you make it better with just editing alone, especially seeing the footage that they left out in the deleted scenes and assuming that there was even more footage because it was like 3 films in one. Yeah, I think you could, and I think you could if you because you already know what I'm gonna say. If you could focus this more on the relationship between like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, and then you also focus on like one villain. I feel like I mean, how many villains did we have in that film?
3.
Like we had 3, but at the end fight scene was only 2, right? It was like the Rhino showed up at the end.
Oh god, yeah, the Rhino was in that.
Yeah,
one.
but there was really like 2 villains.
Rhino, Goblin, and then Electro.
Yeah. Like as much as I love the Electro fight scene in Times Square, just because of seeing how Spider-Man thought through the like his web shooter stopped working and that kind of stuff, that was dope. But would I sacrifice that? Absolutely. Definitely didn't need Electro. I'm not saying the Goblin was the best version of the Goblin, but I think you could have made a more fleshed out version. But if we're just doing edits alone, I feel like hoping that there's some leftover footage on the floor of him interacting with like him as Osborn and their dynamic, because they really didn't get a lot of the dynamic of them as friends. So if we saw more of that dynamic, and yes, this is basically repeating from the Tobey Maguire era, like that storyline, but it still would have been, I feel like they could have topped the Tobey Maguire storylines with the like Goblin, Osborn, and Gwen Stacy and all that stuff if it was more like it was a more grounded film where you felt more emotional depth in their relationship, because their relationship was real in real life. You were seeing it on screen.
Yeah.
And then if you could have, and the actor who played Osborn was a fantastic actor. So there's got to be stuff left on the floor that would show their dynamic and see some like
Chronicle. So we know he could do it.
Yeah, and I feel like there has to be something in there that shows us okay, they're old friends trying to bring their thing back together, and then he's not able to do it because he's Spider-Man, but he's lying about that, and that's creating a rift. And then he's also having problems with his relationship simultaneously. And then, there's this whole thing that we didn't get much information about how his father's sick, like what the hell happened there, and how that forced him into becoming the Goblin himself, and then how he's basically losing his friend he's trying to rekindle that friendship with, and then it turns into this whole disaster where he ends up losing his woman. I feel like if there's more stuff on the cutting room floor, that could be edited to a better film, and you just completely cut Jamie Foxx's character out of the film. But that's given that there's extra stuff, because I feel like there's extra stuff.
There had to have been, yeah.
Because like if they just filmed only the scenes we saw between Peter and Osborn, I mean, like, that was just really bad planning, because I'm like, it wasn't complete. So yeah, I honestly think that would have been a superior film. Would it been like the best film of all time? No, but I think it would have been enough to actually get us to a third film.
Tactix?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think I would have cut out Rhino completely because he was underutilized, and then I would have fleshed out. I would have fleshed out Green Goblin. I would have fleshed out Green Goblin's story. Introducing Harry, you can still go with the same storyline of him being sick, the reason why he's back in town is to, see his father off and whatnot. And then you can still use some of the footage from Jamie Foxx, but you tease him for a third film rather than having him be the center of the entire movie. So like that part where he falls into the water and he gets electrocuted and stuff like that could be like an ending, post-credit scene or something like that sets up another a third film kind of thing. That's what I would
like I have nothing to add to that. I'm in complete agreement with both of you. Yeah. So
also the ability to bring back the scene of his father actually being alive, because
that was a great scene. The deleted scene.
It was a great deleted scene, and if you had the story lead up and your climax, you feel like your climax is okay. Gwen Stacy dies, and the funeral, and all that stuff that led afterwards, because all that stuff about him mourning was so hard to watch. And then you finish the film with like the father coming back and some whatever pieces around that, and you just like put that in there. You're like, you think that the movie's like, okay, we're both done in like 5 minutes, and then you get an extra few minutes with the father. That would have been just like, you're gonna gut punch me again. Right after she dies, and we go through the morning, you're gonna gut punch me again, like, because that film would have been, it could have been like a more masterful film, because in the middle
it could so much,
because the first film sets up this great character and does great stuff, and the second film, instead of being a superhero film, would have been a human film, and it would have been a character film, and the Goblin might have been much smaller in terms of the action part of it, but would have been all about the character. And you could have kept that Goblin going into the third film and then introduce Electro, and boom, you would have been off for a really big third film where the Goblin's already fleshed out. All we got to do is flesh out the Electro. And if you want to bring in other characters, you could do that. But you're like, how far now going that third film, Spider-Man has come through so much. You would have so much feeling for that character at where he's at, that third film would have been like, you'd be ready for something big. And they put two films into one, and they screwed the pooch.
Amen. All right, moving on. So our final topic is we are going to review the latest episode of Hawkeye that came out this past Wednesday, episode 4. So T, let's start with you. What did you think of episode 4 of Hawkeye?
To be honest, I'm actually enjoying this series so far. Impressive. But one thing I will say though is there's not a lot of depth within the show. Like at least with like WandaVision, there was an overall arc to the storyline. Like we knew what was happening and what like we didn't know what the lead up was or what the end result was going to be, but like everything was kind of solidified in the beginning, and it was just a matter of us kind of trying to figure out, okay, how does this whole story unfold, right? Same thing kind of with Loki and even with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. With this one, I'm not super clear on where they're trying to go with the storyline. I mean, everything is like it just seems very generic, and I guess because Hawkeye is more of a generic character in comparison to the rest of the Avengers, they're trying to keep it grounded. So what I will say is, in terms of like storyline, it's not really gripping me as much as the previous series has done, but it is holding. It's treading water fairly well based on the merits of it, you know, giving me the right type of action that I want. Especially like I've wanted to see, you know, Clint throw down and do some really cool, dope fight scenes. And he has some really cool scenes in other Avengers films. It's just often, or even great moments, but they're often overshadowed by, you know, all the other members
Everyone
of the team,
else.
right? Yeah, you know what I mean? So there's that. Now like he kind of has this opportunity to shine, and that's kind of why I appreciated the Black Widow movie, because now it's like we get to see just how dope her character is without her being overshadowed by the rest of the crew. Same thing here with Hawkeye, right? I just, in terms of the storyline, I just don't really know what the overall angle is, and whether or not like the end reveal is going to be as strong as some of its predecessors, right? Like obviously we talked about the potential for Kingpin showing up, and if that is the case, then that's pretty huge, because then, and you know, they've already mentioned, or Kevin Feige has already kind of alluded to the fact that, like, you know, if there is any kind of plan for us to add Daredevil into the MCU, we will reintroduce Charlie Cox into the mix, right? So
well, no, it's been confirmed. Charlie Cox will be in the MCU.
Well, he was very well, unless you heard new information, but like I saw the interview, and he was very like that. Those were his words. He was basically saying like, if like when like if there is talks of it happening, Charlie Cox will be the person that we call to be Daredevil in the MCU. But like nothing has been like, as far as I know, nothing has been like, this is what we're doing. We're introducing Daredevil in this movie on this date. That's
like all Kevin Feige has said is that he has confirmed that Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. He's confirmed those rumors. That's all he said. We don't know in what fashion. We don't know in what way. But Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. That is all we know, and nothing else.
Yeah. So there's a high potentiality that Kingpin will then probably show up in Hawkeye then, because yes,
Darcy,
I mean the timing.
Darcy made some comments about that last week.
Yeah, like the timing of this is very, very convenient. You know what I mean? Like it's very, you know what I mean? Like because I remember I asked you like, when are we getting the final episode? Or like, yeah, because this was the 4th, and then we have another one coming out. Two more. So, and next week, this coming week is going to be the opening for Spider-Man. So they really like, you know, Kingpin has to show up in this next upcoming episode.
So there is a rumor, a very strong rumor, that episode 5 of Hawkeye is going to quote unquote break the internet.
I feel it, man.
So episode 5 is next Wednesday, which is the day before No Way Home is released.
Wait, so do you think that Daredevil or Charlie Cox is going to show up in No Way Home then?
I believe that Charlie Cox is going to show up in No Way Home, and I think that, well, now because Darcy got in my head, and I went back and rewatched episode 3, and I saw that scene with the uncle, and by scene I mean the hand. But I will agree with Darcy that the chuckle from the unnamed uncle who just showed his hand did sound very similar to Vincent D'Onofrio.
Wow, the reluctancy to agree with me. That's something right there.
Because I don't want to be hurt. If it's not Vincent D'Onofrio, then Darcy, you did this to me.
Wow,
prepare for a lot
emotional.
of hurt if things don't get confirmed, man. Like if Andrew and Toby, Andrew and Toby are in it.
So if Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield are not, if I don't see them in any MCU properties by the end of next weekend, I will be a broken-hearted individual.
Bro, I'm gonna be so bent if nothing that we speculated comes true.
Yo, I got to throw something out here too.
It's your turn, man.
I'm gonna make it harder. So yeah, like Tactix, I'm enjoying this show. I agree with his points, but I think that the cast is killing it, and that's what makes it so much fun. It is obvious, it is expected, like even to the like, oh, things are getting bad, I can't have you around. Like it's just a lot of things feel typical, but they're executing a good job, and so it's a lot of fun actually.
Also, Yelena came back.
Yes. That was cool. I was excited for that. Obviously, wasn't much to it, but yeah, that was dope. Now here's the thing. I had a thought while you guys are talking, and I'm gonna drop something that I think is gonna be even. Oh, okay.
Don't get me more hyped, man.
No. It's not like a theory that has like a very specific character and like that, but it's still a theory. Marvel, when they've done Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they tied it into the events of the movies, right? And we're talking about, okay, so we're gonna see Vincent D'Onofrio before that movie, and then we're gonna before Spider-Man's movie, and then we're gonna see Matt Murdock, which likely means we'll see him at the very beginning of the film when he's getting interrogated and comes in as like the lawyer. But then they're gonna break the multiverse. So does that mean that the 6th episode of this show is gonna have a multiverse moment? Like something's gonna happen to it?
Oh shit!
Right? Like what?
Just like they did with Venom,
right?
The end credit scene.
What? Like here's a crazy idea. What if Clint disappears into the multiverse? And that's why she has to take over. I mean, it's not a great idea, but it's just like these are like things that like, because like they've been setting it up that either he's retiring or he's dying, right? Like
he's not gonna die. He's gonna go home with his kids.
I think
they can't
retire.
do it.
They're not gonna kill him on Christmas.
Yeah.
That'd just be too heartless, man. Like
kill him on Christmas. Oh,
he dies
good.
on his front porch. He made it just in time for Christmas to die in his family.
Yeah, yo.
He just hear your last gift. Oh man, that's harsh. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Oh man. But yeah, I feel like there's got to be some multiverse impact, right? Like, and if you actually think about this from a timing perspective, because it's all kind of like lining up a certain way, it's like it literally could be like it's after the multiverse because like it concludes in the movie and then this happens in the show. They could avoid it though, so that the show is self-contained. But I mean, I feel like anybody who's watching the Hawkeye show is also a person who will want to see the Spider-Man movie. Unless they're consciously aware that like, nah, Spider-Man's gonna do so well in the box office that some people won't get a chance. But I kind of feel like, yeah, most likely they're pretty comfortable. They're like most people have
like
seen
that
it
theory, man.
Okay, so hold
like
on. Going off that, so if by next week we get both Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox back get into the MCU, here's my next question: do you think they'll bring back the Defenders?
Everybody but Iron Fist.
Yeah.
We can bring back the Iron Lady, okay? She can replace him.
We can just recast him.
Yes, with her.
Agreed. I'm fine with a Danielle Rand, but like, okay, hold up. If I'm gonna first answer the question about the Defenders, and then I'll ask you my second question.
To answer your question directly, I feel like we could definitely bring them in. I feel like Luke Cage could work. Jessica Jones, you and I had talked about this before. I think that she's more difficult to bring in, like thematically, but I also put some thought into it, and I think that she also could work really. She might play off really well off of someone like She-Hulk. I don't know why, but I just kind of feel like those actors would play really well off each other, and there could be some interesting dynamic there. I don't know a lot about She-Hulk, but there's just something about like just rage. I don't know what it is. It's like makes me like think that they'd be like a lot of fun off of to play off each other. But I think there's also a couple other characters that she could also play off really well. I also think she might even play well off of this this Hawkeye, the girl I can't remember her name right now who's going to be replacing Clint. I think that could be some interesting dynamic there.
Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld. Yeah, and I met her character in the show.
Kate Bishop.
Kate. Like I feel like Kate and Jessica could also be fun in this perspective that like they shouldn't work well together. It's like oil and water, but that could be a lot of fun in a dynamic because she would annoy the hell out of Jessica Jones, and that might just be the whole fun of every episode. But yeah, I feel like they could do it as long as they do not bring back whatever
Rand?
his no I don't care, but I don't have a problem with Iron Fist, just not the actor who played him. You could recast him 100%. Just don't bring him back.
Okay, so actually, Tactix, you go first, and then I'll bring my question up.
I feel like it's possible, but they would have to have a long-term plan in terms of what they were gonna do with those characters. Because I feel like because when you sign on to MCU, like Chris Evans has stated how reluctant he was to even join this franchise because of how long of a commitment it was, right? Like you have to put into perspective that like these actors, they don't just sit around and they wait or whatever. Like they have other roles and like other opportunities that they have to take on as well, right? And if you're basically trying to reserve these actors for like a small part that's not part of the MCU's like major plan, then it's going to be hard to narrow these actors down for that, because who's to say when they plan on bringing in Jessica Jones for like a 2-minute scene kind of thing, right? So unless they plan on utilizing the character for a long stretch of time throughout their next upcoming phases, I don't know if that makes much sense. And then if it doesn't, then you'd have to recast them based off of the fact that some of these actors may not be available to reserve time for that long, right? And then if you end up recasting them, then it doesn't have the same kind of like weight as like introducing Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as their old characters, right? So at that point, it doesn't really make sense for you to even add Luke Cage and all the other guys if you had no intention of adding them to begin with. So,
but in February this year, Kevin Feige wants Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage in the MCU, was the name of an article from a website called smallscreen.com. But or smallscreen.co.uk. But I don't know. I feel like they're gonna want them back and figure out a way. Like I especially
so that's the thing. Like if they plan on bringing them back and they plan on using them, then that's a completely different story. But if you just plan on like having it as like a one-off like cameo type of thing, but like we're not going to use your cameo until it's like relevant like 5-6 years down the line, so make sure that you're available within that time, it doesn't make any sense, right? Unless you plan like at least with the Netflix contracts when they were part of the Netflix original thing, like they were obligated by contract to be free for a certain stretch of time to film those seasons, right? Because there was a commitment there and for an ongoing series. But if you're just reserving it for like a one-off cameo, it doesn't make much sense. So yes, if they plan on using them long term, I'm all for it, and I think it does make sense, and I think it'd be really cool to see all of the original guys come back, minus Finn Jones, of course. But if not, then yeah, I don't know how they would make that work.
Okay, so going now to the fact that like literally all of us hate Finn Jones, and like I agree with you guys in terms of like bringing them back. Like as long as you do it well, as long as there's a plan. Like if like Kingpin is going to become like a main villain in the MCU that like is going to deal with Daredevil and Spider-Man at the same time, and also there's going to be some crossover with Sony. Whatever, do your thing, but we got to get rid of Finn Jones. He is the shame of anything Marvel related. Who would you guys recast if you was going to be a male? Who would you recast him as? Who would you have recast to replace him?
You know, so he might be a little too young, but I heard there was talks of I don't know to what degree, and I think maybe it's just like wishful thinking as opposed to like there being an actual conversation. But I heard Tom Holland wants Timothy what's his name? Chalamet?
Chalamet?
To come back.
Yeah, from Dune.
Yeah, he wants him to be introduced into MCU in some capacity. So I think I like that might I don't he might be a little too young considering how old the other members are. Like I couldn't imagine because like him and
he's way
Luke
younger
Cage
than the rest of the Defenders.
Yeah, like him and Luke Cage are supposed to be like buddies, right? Super buddies. So it'd be kind of weird, right? But like I could see him like because I'm thinking back to like Ultimate Spider-Man, and I could see him maybe playing like a younger kind of Iron Fist. But
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
Darcy?
That's interesting. I actually Googled it, and people actually have put that up before, it looks like. For
Iron Fist?
Yeah, either that or I'm just seeing pictures of, I don't know, maybe I'm confused here. I'm trying to think like who would I want to play this role, and I don't have like a strong person in mind for who to play this.
I can give mine to give you.
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
Let me see if I agree
So
with it.
I would say that like if they're gonna recast and redo Danny Rand, I would prefer that they do like a half Asian or like a half Asian, half white character, or just have like an Asian character. But like so going off that, I kind of want to see Miho from Maze Runner be him.
Oh.
Don't remember who that is.
He was the runner, so like in the first Maze Runner, he was the one who mapped out the.
Miho?
That's not...
Yeah.
Minho, like Minho. That's not a bad choice. That's not a bad. He looks different now, though. Damn, I just googled.
Oh yeah, okay.
He look different.
Yeah. Man, you know who would have been dope? Like in his prime when he was younger, the guy who played Rufio from Hook. I know I'm going way back.
Dante Bosco?
Yeah, Dante Bosco. Thank you. Yeah, I just think like he would have been like. It's not on some racist shit. I'm just saying like I liked him as like Rufio, and I'm like. I don't know. I see him putting on the suit and like having that same kind of edginess and cockiness.
Oh man.
You know, but also having that
Zuko.
Zen like, hell yeah, man.
All right. Darce.
Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna like go walk away later. I'm gonna be like, oh man, that person would have been perfect.
It's fine.
But yeah. I don't got anybody right now. I just want to recast. I feel like the bar is so low that like it doesn't really matter at this point. Just get somebody who understands and respects martial arts. I mean, like if you can give him some acting. No, I don't want to do. No, I don't even want to go there. I was gonna make a joke about someone from Mortal Kombat, like the main actor, but I'm like that's just a repeat of the same problem. Except this time we'll get real fighting, but we won't get, or the acting won't jump significantly.
Finn Jones didn't do great acting either.
Yeah, honestly, actually, on that point, the guy who played the main character in the Mortal Kombat movie would be a step up because he literally could do a better job. I kept thinking about him. I didn't want to say it, but I'm like, he would do a better job. You just need to make sure that the acting's on point. And in all fairness, it could have been the film's fault, right? It could have been the film's fault. He might be a better actor. That film just had a lot of problems, so it wasn't setting up for success. You know what I'm saying? So let me put my hat in the ring, and whatever that dude's name is from Mortal Kombat, I'll put him in there. And that just shows you how bad Finn Jones screwed up.
Fair enough. All right, just like final thoughts, because I just remembered I didn't actually give my review of Hawkeye episode 4. I'm enjoying this series, but like for me, it's like the bottom of all of them. I've enjoyed all the other series more than I've enjoyed this. That's not to say that the show is bad. It's just it's not my really cup of tea. I did like seeing Yelena show up. That was a really nice change of pace. I still really like Echo. They're killing it with her. Haley Steinfeld. I just feel that like the whole thing with I think that the mom, who's clearly going to be the main villain of the show, I think the mom is the weakest part of the show, and like it's bothering me. And having her fiance and them like trying to show that they're in love while at the same time being like someone, I'm not really feeling it. And like Hawkeye having his moments like with Haley, like with Kate. Clint and Kate have great rapport. I'm really enjoying watching them. The scene with like her bringing Christmas to him was really cute. The fight on the roof, and then like the callback to like Natasha and like how it's affecting Clint. All good stuff. I'm okay with the series. I'm not loving it. I'm also not really big in the Christmas spirit in general, so that maybe that's the reason why it's like just throwing me off. It's like a Christmas show. Nonetheless, God damn it, Darcy, you've made me hyped for Vincent D'Onofrio for next episode. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to blame you.
Got you. But by the way, the dude from Mortal Kombat, his name's Louis Tan, and he was in Iron Fist. He was one of the villains, and he was actually one of the better scenes. He was the drunk villain. He was the drunk villain that he fought.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you're right.
So absolutely, god. He is a better actor, and he should totally take over the role. So I am putting up my petition. Louis Tan should take over Iron Fist.
Holy shit!
And you could multiverse.
You just blew my mind.
Yep. Because he actually does martial arts for real, and yeah. So multiverse that in this version of the universe, this guy became it.
Wow!
No fucking way.
Things happen if I don't.
What a waste of
you gonna bring that up? Your text, bring that up.
Hell yeah!
Yeah. I cannot believe that was him.
Yo, good find, man. Holy.
Yo,
he's so much better than that dumb motherfucker.
He does martial arts better drunk than the other guy does it sober.
Oh.
Yep. See? Yep.
Oh.
How crazy would that be if he actually did get the role of Iron Fist, though?
Like Finn Jones is like this. Taking this role has been the greatest like humiliation of my life, and it's all his fault. It's entirely all his fault.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? And I've watched a bunch of behind the scenes before Mortal Kombat came out, before we knew what it was. And I watched a lot of Louis Tan, and he's like, he's a diehard. He's very serious about his stuff, his craft, and I feel like he's a man he was supposed to have another really big movie role that ended up tanking. Like it just ended up not coming out or getting canned early. But I feel like he's one of those guys who's like worked really hard and hasn't quite got that break yet. And I feel like he would do a good job with this. He would put the work in. He looks the part. He fits the mold. He's mixed, all that stuff. I feel like he's already got a relationship with Marvel, so they already got him on payroll. So I feel like they could get that he would be a good fit.
Oh my god. This actually is depressing me even more now.
Yeah, I know. Watching anything Iron Fist. I mean,
Yeah.
watching one half of this scene is really
Can
bothering
you see
me.
how much he's holding back just to like make this guy work? And also on top of it, like they're having to use him with a hood to cover the fact that like the actor didn't do shit. Oh,
Yeah.
turn
Oh,
it
yeah.
off, T. It hurts me. It just hurts me so much.
Yeah. There's a really good Scottish fighter in that hood right now. That we don't know who he is. Like that like blondish beard. I'm like, yeah, we need to find out who that stunned guy was.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all my questions. So I'm gonna volley it back to you, T.
All right. Well, this has been another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here, and I'm rooting for Louis Tan.
And this is Big Geek Umar, and please like and subscribe, and live long and prosper, y'all. Take care.